The red lights flashed through every corridor of the research station on Zerion Prime. Commander Lee Tae-ho pressed his back against the cold metal wall and listened to the heavy footsteps of Coalition guards running past his hiding spot. His heart pounded in his chest, but his hand stayed steady. 3 years of war had taught him to stay calm when death was close. Tae-ho looked at the small data chip in his palm. Everything humanity needed to survive was stored on this tiny piece of metal. The Coalition's new quantum weapon could destroy entire human fleets in seconds. But now he had their secrets. He had their plans. He just needed to get off this planet alive. The research station was huge, built deep into the rocky surface of Zerion Prime. The Coalition had been mining rare crystals here for years. These crystals powered their ships and weapons. Tae-ho had spent 2 months working as a maintenance worker, learning every tunnel and every room. Nobody suspected that the quiet human fixing air vents was really a spy. But now they knew. Somehow they had figured out who he was. Admiral Kang Min-soo stood on the bridge of his command ship, floating in space above Zerion Prime. He was tall and thin with gray skin and 4 arms. His species, the Veltar, had joined the Coalition 50 years ago. They were good at organizing and planning. Min-soo was very good at hunting down enemies. How did one human get inside our most secure facility? Min-soo asked his officers. His voice was cold and angry. Captain Park Ji-woo, another Veltar, checked his reports. The human used false identity papers. He worked in maintenance for 63 days. We found his real identity files 20 minutes ago. His name is Lee Tae-ho. He is a former Special Forces soldier from Earth. Min-soo's 4 hands moved over the control panels. What did he steal? The complete plans for the quantum disruption weapon, all test data, production schedules, everything. Min-soo was quiet for a moment. The humans had been fighting the Coalition for 3 years. Nobody expected them to last this long. They were just one small species from one small planet. But somehow, they kept winning battles they should have lost. They were clever and dangerous in ways the Coalition did not understand. Send security teams to all exits, Min-soo ordered. This human cannot leave the planet. If he takes those plans back to Earth, it could change everything. Deep inside the research station, Tae-ho moved through the maintenance tunnels. These narrow passages connected every part of the facility. The Coalition guards were too big to follow him here. He crawled through spaces barely wide enough for a human. Tae-ho had studied the station's layout for weeks. He knew exactly where he needed to go. The shuttle bay was 12 levels up and half a kilometer north. If he could reach a small cargo ship, he could escape to space before the Coalition could stop him. But first he needed to upload the stolen data to his neural implant. The data chip could be lost or destroyed. His implant was connected directly to his brain. As long as he stayed alive, the information would be safe. Tae-ho found a maintenance terminal and plugged in the data chip. Numbers and diagrams flashed across the small screen. The quantum weapon was even more powerful than Earth scientists had feared. One Coalition ship with this weapon could destroy 100 human ships. The download finished. Tae-ho destroyed the data chip with a small explosive charge. Now the only copy of the Coalition's secrets was inside his head. Alarms started ringing louder. The Coalition had found where he had been hiding. Tae-ho climbed up through a vertical shaft toward the upper levels. Behind him he could hear guards breaking down doors and searching every room. "Attention all personnel," a voice said over the station speakers. "The human spy Lee Tae-ho is somewhere inside the facility. He is armed and dangerous. All exits are sealed. He cannot escape." Tae-ho smiled at that. The Coalition thought like the Coalition. They followed rules and procedures. They believed their own propaganda about human weakness. But Tae-ho had learned something important during 3 years of war. Humans did not think like other species. They did not follow the rules when the rules were stupid. The Coalition had sealed the official exits. They had guards at every shuttle bay and cargo dock, but they had forgotten about the mining tunnels. Zerion Prime was full of old mining shafts that connected to the surface. The Coalition had mapped them but did not use them anymore. They were too small and dangerous for Coalition species. They were perfect for humans. Tejo reached the upper level and found an access hatch to the mining section. The tunnels here were older and rougher. Strange crystals grew from the walls, glowing with soft blue light. These crystals were why the Coalition wanted Zirion Prime. They stored energy better than anything else in the galaxy. As he moved through the crystal tunnels, Tejo noticed something interesting. His communication device stopped working properly. The signal kept cutting in and out. The crystals were interfering with electronic equipment. That was useful information. Behind him, the sounds of pursuit grew louder. The Coalition had found his trail. They were sending smaller guards into the tunnels. Tejo could hear them talking in their strange languages, coordinating their search. But Tejo was not running away anymore. He was moving towards something. 3 years of war had taught him that sometimes the best defense was attack. The Coalition expected him to hide and run. They expected him to be afraid. They did not expect him to fight back. Tejo found what he was looking for. A mining control station connected to the main excavation equipment. The Coalition used massive drilling machines to extract crystals from deep underground. These machines were powerful enough to cut through solid rock. They were powerful enough to cut through Coalition guards. Tejo accessed the control system and started the excavation sequence. Deep below, drilling machines roared to life. The tunnel system shook as tons of rock began to move. Tejo set a delayed timer and moved to a safe position. The first Coalition guards entered the tunnel just as the ceiling collapsed. Rock and crystal crashed down, blocking the passage completely. The guards' screams were cut short. Tejo kept moving deeper into the crystal caves. The Coalition thought they were hunting him, but now he was hunting them. He had their secrets. He knew their weakness, and he was going to make them pay for underestimating humanity. The real fight was just beginning. Captain Park Jiwoo stared at the report on his screen and could not believe what he was reading. 6 Coalition guards were dead. The mining tunnel was completely blocked. Security cameras showed only empty corridors where the humans should have been. "How is this possible?" Jiwoo asked the security chief. "He is just one human with basic equipment." The security chief, a large 4-legged Krex warrior named Vorthak, growled in frustration. "The human used our own mining equipment against us." He turned the excavation system into a weapon. This is not normal prisoner behavior. On the command ship above, Admiral Min-Soo received the bad news with growing anger. What should have been a simple arrest was becoming complicated. The human was not acting like other humans they had captured before. Other humans ran and hid until they were caught. This one was fighting back with intelligence and planning. "Send 10 more security teams," Min-Soo ordered. "Seal every tunnel. Use gas weapons if necessary. I want this human alive, but if he continues to resist, kill him and extract the data from his neural implant." Min-Soo paused and looked at the planet below. "And prepare the orbital bombardment system. If the human reaches the surface, we will force him back underground." Deep in the crystal caves beneath the research station, Tejo was not alone anymore. He had found another human hiding in the old mining tunnels. Dr. Yoon So-young was a xenobiologist who had been studying the native life forms on Zirion Prime when the Coalition invaded 6 months ago. She had been living in the caves ever since, surviving on emergency rations and water from underground streams. So-young was small and thin, with short black hair and intelligent eyes. She wore the torn remains of a research uniform. When she first saw Tejo, she thought he was a Coalition prisoner who had escaped. When he explained who he really was, she almost cried with relief. "I thought I was the only human left on this planet," she said. "I have been so alone." Tejo showed her the data he had stolen. "This information could save humanity. But first we need to get off this planet. Do you know these tunnels well?" So-young nodded. "I have been mapping them for months. The crystals here are amazing. They store energy and interfere with electronic signals. The Coalition never fully explored these caves because their equipment does not work properly down here. That explains why my communicator keeps failing," Tejo said. "Can we use this to our advantage?" So Young led him deeper into the cave system, to a large chamber filled with towering crystal formations. The crystals glowed with different colors and hummed with energy. Some were as tall as buildings. These crystals form a natural network, So Young explained. They share energy and information with each other. I think they might be partially alive, or at least semi-intelligent. When coalition equipment gets too close, the crystals react by generating electromagnetic interference. Above them, the coalition was sending more forces into the tunnels, but every time their sensors tried to locate the humans, the readings became confused and unreliable. The deeper underground the humans went, the harder they became to find. Taeho studied the crystal chamber and began to form a plan. Can we control this interference? Make it stronger? I think so, So Young said. But why would we want to do that? Because the coalition has ships in orbit, Taeho replied. They will try to hunt us from space if we reach the surface, but if we can disrupt their sensors and communications, we might have a chance. The first coalition patrol reached the crystal chamber an hour later. 10 guards with heavy weapons and scanning equipment. They moved carefully through the glowing formations, trying to locate the humans. They never saw the trap. Taeho had spent his time studying the crystal patterns and the coalition's approach routes. When the guards entered the chamber, he used a small explosive charge to crack one of the largest crystals. The crystal's stored energy released in a massive electromagnetic pulse that fried every piece of coalition equipment in the chamber. The guards found themselves blind and deaf, their weapons and communicators dead. In the darkness that followed, Taeho and So Young attacked with simple human weapons, knives and clubs and rocks. The coalition guards were stronger and better armed, but they could not fight what they could not see. When the fight was over, 10 more coalition soldiers were dead. Captain Jiwoo received the news with shock and fear. 16 guards dead, all their equipment destroyed. How is one human doing this? Admiral Minsu was no longer angry. He was beginning to understand that they faced something dangerous. This human is not just a spy. He is a specialist. A killer, trained for exactly this kind of warfare. Earth must have sent their best operative. Should we request reinforcements? Jiwoo asked. Minsu thought about it. Pride said no. The coalition should be able to handle one human with their current forces. But wisdom said yes. This human was proving more dangerous than expected. Send a message to Fleet Command, Minsu decided. Request additional ships. I want 20 vessels in orbit around this planet, and prepare atmospheric fighters. If the human reaches the surface, we will hunt him from the air, deep underground. Taeho and So Young were planning their next move. The crystal chamber had become their base. So Young had been right about the crystals being semi-intelligent. They seemed to respond to human presence differently than coalition presence. Around humans, the crystals generated gentle light and warmth. Around coalition forces, they created interference and confusion. It is almost like they want to help us, So Young said. Taeho was more practical. Maybe they just hate invaders. The coalition has been mining these crystals for years, taking them away from their home. Maybe the crystals see us as allies against a common enemy. Whatever the reason, the crystals were giving them an advantage. Coalition sensors could not penetrate the crystal chambers. Coalition communications were blocked or distorted. And now Taeho had a new idea. You said these crystals store and share energy, he told So Young. What would happen if we overloaded the network? So Young looked worried. The energy release could be enormous. It might destroy everything in the cave system. Including us? Probably. But it would also affect anything above ground. The electromagnetic pulse could reach orbit. Taeho smiled. How many coalition ships are up there now? So Young checked her makeshift scanner. 20, according to the radio chatter I can pick up. Then we have them outnumbered, Taeho said. So Young stared at him. How do 20 ships outnumber 2 humans? Because they think like the coalition, Taeho replied. They see ships and numbers and firepower. They do not see the real battlefield. This entire planet is now our weapon. We just need to learn how to fire it. Above them, 20 coalition warships orbited Zerion Prime, confident that overwhelming force would soon end this embarrassing situation. They did not know that far below, two humans were turning their greatest source of wealth into their greatest vulnerability. The crystals hummed with gathering energy, preparing for war. Fleet Commander Choi Hyun-woo arrived at Zerion Prime with 10 more warships and a very bad mood. The Coalition's third fleet was supposed to be hunting human resistance cells near the outer colonies. Instead, they were wasting time and resources, chasing one spy on a mining planet. Explain to me how 26 Coalition soldiers died fighting one human, Hyun-woo demanded as soon as he boarded Min-soo's command ship. Admiral Min-soo showed him the tactical reports. The human has extensive military training. He knows how to use the environment as a weapon, and he has help from the planet's crystal formations. They interfere with our sensors and communications. Crystals do not fight wars, Hyun-woo said, coldly. Soldiers fight wars. You have 40 ships now. Use them. Hyun-woo ordered atmospheric fighters into the planet's airspace. Sleek Coalition aircraft began bombing suspected tunnel entrances. Heavy assault mechs landed near the research station. Ground troops with flame weapons entered the cave system to burn out the humans. Deep underground, Tae-ho and So-young felt the explosions shaking the rock above their heads. Dust fell from the ceiling as Coalition bombs tried to collapse the tunnel system. They are getting serious, Tae-ho said, checking his equipment. We need to move to the next phase. So-young had been studying the crystal network for 3 days. She had discovered that the formations were even more complex than she first thought. The crystals did not just store energy. They could focus it and direct it. With the right frequency signals, the entire network could be turned into a massive transmitter. I think I understand how to do it, she told Tae-ho. But we need to reach the primary crystal chamber. It is deeper underground, closer to the planet's core. The crystals there are older and more powerful. They moved through tunnels that grew stranger as they went deeper. The crystals here were huge and ancient. Some were so large they formed natural bridges across underground chasms. Others grew in perfect geometric patterns that seemed impossible. Behind them, Coalition ground forces followed with heavy weapons and protective suits. The flame troops burned everything they found, trying to force the humans into the open. But the crystal tunnels had dozens of different passages. Every time the Coalition thought they had trapped their prey, the humans vanished into another route. The Coalition forces were getting frustrated and careless. When they reached a large crystal chamber, they spread out to search it quickly. That was their mistake. Tae-ho had been learning how to work with the crystal network. He found that certain crystals would respond to physical vibration. When he struck them with metal objects, they would resonate with other crystals nearby. The effect created focused sound waves that could shatter rock or overload electronic equipment. When the Coalition troops entered the chamber, Tae-ho struck a sequence of crystals in the right pattern. The sound that resulted was beyond human hearing, but it was exactly the right frequency to destroy Coalition equipment. Weapons, communicators, and life support systems all failed at the same moment. In the chaos that followed, Tae-ho and So-young attacked from multiple directions using the crystal formations as cover. The Coalition soldiers found themselves fighting, shadows in a maze of glowing stone. Most of them died before they understood what was happening. Above ground, Fleet Commander Hyun-woo watched his atmospheric fighters explode one by one. The aircraft were flying in formation when their engines simply stopped working. They crashed into the rocky surface of Zerion Prime, creating new craters in the landscape. What caused this? Hyun-woo demanded. Mechanical failure? Enemy fire? His technical officers could not explain it. The fighters had been working perfectly until they reached a certain altitude above the planet. Then all their systems failed simultaneously. It might be some kind of electromagnetic field, one officer suggested, but we have never seen anything like this before. Deep in the primary crystal chamber, So-young was making final adjustments to her improvised control system. She had connected several pieces of Coalition equipment to the largest crystal formation. The setup looked strange with human and alien technology mixed together, but it was working. I can amplify the crystal network's natural electromagnetic field, she explained to Tae-ho. When I activate this system, it will create a pulse that reaches into space. Any coalition ship in orbit will lose power for several minutes. Several minutes is not enough, Taeho said. We need to do permanent damage. So Young nodded. I can do that too. But it requires overloading the entire network. The energy release will be enormous. These crystal chambers will be destroyed, and we might not survive. Taeho looked around the ancient chamber. The crystals here were beautiful and probably thousands of years old. It seemed wrong to destroy them. But humanity's survival was more important than preserving alien artifacts. How many ships can we take out? He asked. All of them, So Young replied. Every coalition vessel within 10,000 kilometers will be hit by the pulse. Their hulls will protect the crew, but their electronics will be completely destroyed. Above them, Fleet Commander Haiyan Wu was receiving reports from his ground forces. More soldiers were dead. The humans had vanished again. The mission was becoming a disaster. Sir, Captain Jiwoo reported, we are detecting strange energy readings. From deep underground, the crystals seem to be building up some kind of charge. Haiyan Wu studied the sensor data. Is this natural or artificial? Unknown. But the energy levels are increasing rapidly. If this continues, there could be a massive release. Haiyan Wu made a command decision. Prepare all ships for immediate orbital bombardment. If the humans are planning something, we will stop them by destroying everything on the planet's surface. But it was too late. In the crystal chamber far below, So Young activated her control system. The effect was instant and overwhelming. Every crystal on Zirion Prime began to glow with intense light. The planet's entire crystal network synchronized into one massive transmitter. Energy that had been stored for thousands of years was released in a single coordinated pulse. The electromagnetic wave hit the coalition fleet like an invisible hammer. 40 warships lost power simultaneously. Their engines stopped, their weapons went dead, their life support systems failed. In the darkness of space, the mighty coalition fleet became 40 pieces of drifting metal. On the planet's surface, the research station's lights went out. The mining equipment stopped working. Every piece of coalition technology on Zirion Prime was destroyed by the pulse, but the humans survived. In the crystal chamber, Taeho and So Young were protected by the natural shielding of the rock formations. The crystals around them had dimmed and cooled. Their stored energy spent, but they were still intact. It worked, So Young said, looking at her readings. Every coalition ship in orbit is disabled. They have no power, no communications, no weapons. Taeho smiled. Then let us go introduce ourselves to Fleet Commander Haiyan Wu. I think he would like to discuss surrender terms. Above them, in the powerless command ship, Haiyan Wu stared out at his dead fleet and began to understand what had happened. One human spy had turned an entire planet into a weapon. 40 coalition warships had been destroyed without firing a shot. For the first time in his military career, Fleet Commander Choi Hyun-woo was afraid of humans. Supreme Commander Oh Sung-min had never lost a battle in 30 years of military service. He commanded the coalition's strongest fleet, with ships that could destroy entire star systems. When he received the emergency message from Zirion Prime, he could not believe what he was reading. 40 coalition warships disabled by one human operative. Hundreds of soldiers dead, an entire fleet floating helpless in space. This is impossible, Sung-min told his staff officers. Humans do not have technology capable of this kind of attack. The reports are confirmed, sir, his aide replied. Admiral Min-soo and Fleet Commander Haiyan Wu both sent identical data. The humans somehow used the planet's crystal formations to generate an electromagnetic pulse. All coalition equipment was destroyed. Sung-min studied the tactical reports. The human called Lee Tae-ho was not just a spy. He was something much more dangerous, a warrior who could turn any environment into a weapon, a strategist who thought in ways the coalition did not understand. Prepare the entire reserve fleet, Sung-min ordered. 50 ships, everything we have in this sector, and send a message to Coalition High Command. Tell them this human represents a greater threat than we initially believed. Sir, 50 ships to capture one human? Is that not excessive? Sung-min's eyes were cold as space. This human has already destroyed 40 ships. He has made the coalition look weak and foolish. This is no longer about capturing a spy. This is about showing the galaxy that nobody defies the coalition and survives. On Zerion Prime, Tae-ho and So-young had found another human hiding in the research station. Engineer Nam Hye-jin had been captured when the coalition invaded, but she had escaped during the chaos of the electromagnetic pulse. She was young and scared, but she had valuable skills. I helped design the quantum weapon, Hye-jin explained. I know how it works and how to build it, but I also know its weaknesses. Tae-ho showed her the data he had stolen. Can we use this information to create a defense? Hye-jin studied the files on So-young's improvised computer. Maybe. The quantum weapon works by disrupting the bonds between subatomic particles, but the same technology could be used to disrupt other things, like subspace communication networks. So-young looked up from her crystal analysis. The coalition uses subspace relays to coordinate their empire. Messages travel faster than light through dimensional layers. If we could disrupt those networks, the coalition would lose contact with their colonies and fleets. Tae-ho finished. They would be fighting blind. The three humans worked together to modify So-young's crystal control system. Hye-jin provided the quantum weapon technology. So-young mapped the planet's crystal network. Tae-ho planned the tactical implementation. What they discovered was remarkable. Zerion Prime was not just rich in energy crystals. It was located at the intersection of several major subspace communication routes. The coalition had built their mining operation here because it was a perfect location for coordinating their expansion into human space. Now that strategic advantage would become their greatest weakness. Above the planet, Supreme Commander Sung-min arrived with 50 warships. The most powerful fleet ever assembled by the coalition in this region. Battleships, cruisers, destroyers, and carrier vessels filled the space around Zerion Prime like a metal storm. Begin deep orbital bombardment, Sung-min ordered. Destroy every structure on the planet's surface. Then send ground forces to search every tunnel and cave. I want this human found and killed. The bombardment was devastating. Coalition ships fired energy weapons that could crack continents. The research station vanished in a ball of plasma. The mining facilities were reduced to melted metal. The planet's surface was scorched clean of anything that might provide shelter. Deep underground, the three humans felt the planet shaking above them. Rock dust fell like snow. The ancient crystal chambers groaned under the stress of the attack. They are trying to bury us, Hye-jin said, fear in her voice. Let them try, Tae-ho replied. We are deeper than their weapons can reach, and soon, we will show them what real power looks like. The subspace cascade device was almost complete. Hye-jin had reverse-engineered the quantum weapon technology to create something entirely new. Instead of destroying matter, it would destroy the dimensional barriers that allowed faster-than-light communication. When we activate this, the effect will spread through the subspace network like a wave, Hye-jin explained. Every coalition communication relay within 3 star systems will be destroyed. They will lose contact with their entire frontier command structure. So-young had connected the device to the planet's most powerful crystal formations. Even though the electromagnetic pulse had drained much of their energy, the crystals still contained enough power for one final attack. There is one problem, So-young said quietly. The energy required will completely destroy the crystal network. The explosion will make the planet uninhabitable. We need to evacuate before activation. Tae-ho looked at the device and made his decision. You two will evacuate. I will stay and activate the cascade. No, Hye-jin protested. We can set a timer. All of us can escape. The coalition will try to stop us, Tae-ho said. Someone needs to stay and make sure the device works. Someone needs to hold them off if they break through our defenses. Above them, coalition ground forces were landing on the scorched surface. Thousands of soldiers with the best equipment the galaxy could provide. They began drilling through solid rock, following energy readings toward the human hideout. The 3 humans had one advantage. They knew the coalition was coming. Tae-ho had spent the last few hours setting up final defenses in the tunnel system. Explosive charges, collapse zones, and crystal resonance traps. The coalition would reach the primary chamber, but they would pay a terrible price. "I am sending a message to Earth," Tejo told his companions. "I want Human Command to know what happened here. I want them to know that one human operative destroyed 50 coalition ships and crippled their communication network." The message was brief. Commander Lee Tejo reporting. Mission accomplished. Quantum weapon data secured and transmitted. Coalition fleet destroyed. Subspace cascade device activated. Tell Earth that Zerion Prime will be remembered. Tell them we made the Coalition pay for underestimating humanity. So Young and He-Jin prepared to evacuate through an old mining shaft that led to the planet's far side. A hidden shuttle waited there, damaged but functional. They would escape to carry news of the victory back to human space. "This is not goodbye," So Young told Tejo. "This is, see you later." Tejo smiled. "Maybe. If there is an afterlife, I will save you both a seat at the bar." The coalition forces broke through the final barriers just as the evacuation was complete. They poured into the crystal chamber like an avalanche of metal and weapons. Hundreds of soldiers surrounding one human. Tejo stood beside the subspace cascade device with his finger on the activation control. Around him, the ancient crystals hummed with gathering power. The coalition forces stopped, recognizing the danger. "You cannot escape," Supreme Commander Sungmin said through a speaker. He had come down to witness the capture personally. "Surrender now and your death will be quick." "I am not trying to escape," Tejo replied. "I am trying to win a war." He pressed the activation button. The explosion was visible from orbit. Lieutenant Colonel Seo Jun-ho was monitoring coalition communications from a hidden observation post, 3 star systems away from Zerion Prime. The small human base was built inside an asteroid, invisible to enemy sensors. For months, they had been listening to coalition fleet movements and reporting back to Earth. Then everything went quiet. "Sir," his communications officer reported, "we have lost contact with all coalition frequencies in the sector. Military channels, civilian broadcasts, even automated navigation beacons, everything is dead." Jun-ho checked the equipment. "System malfunction?" "No, sir. Our equipment is working perfectly. It is the coalition that has gone silent. The last transmission we received was from Supreme Commander Sungmin, requesting immediate reinforcements at Zerion Prime." Jun-ho felt a cold thrill of understanding. "Get me a direct line to Earth Fleet Command. Priority 1. I think, Commander. Tejo just won the war." On Earth, Admiral Shin Yunbi was in the middle of a strategy meeting when the message arrived. For 3 years, humanity had been fighting a desperate defensive war against the coalition. They had won some battles through cleverness and determination, but they were still vastly outnumbered. "Repeat that transmission," Admiral Shin ordered. "Coalition communications network has collapsed across 3 star systems." Jun-ho's voice crackled through the subspace channel. "No enemy transmissions detected for the past 6 hours. Last known coalition position was Zerion Prime with 50 ships under Supreme Commander Sungmin." Admiral Shin looked at her staff officers. 50 ships represented nearly a quarter of the coalition's military strength in this region. If those ships had been destroyed or disabled, it would create a massive gap in enemy defenses. "Prepare the fleet for immediate departure," she ordered. "All available ships. If the coalition is blind and scattered, this is our chance to strike back." The subspace cascade had worked exactly as engineer Nam Hyejin predicted. The explosion on Zerion Prime created a wave that traveled through dimensional space faster than light itself. Every coalition communication relay within 3 star systems was destroyed in minutes. Across the coalition frontier, military commanders found themselves cut off from Central Command. They could not coordinate with other fleets. They could not request reinforcements. They could not even communicate with bases in the same star system. Some coalition governors declared independence, thinking the central government had collapsed. Others switched sides, offering to help humanity in exchange for protection. Many simply fled to neutral space, abandoning their posts. The coalition's carefully organized empire began to fall apart. Dr. Yoon So-young and engineer Nam Hyejin reached the hidden shuttle just as Zerion Prime's surface exploded behind them. The subspace cascade had overloaded every crystal on the planet. The resulting energy release cracked the planet's crust and filled the atmosphere with radioactive dust. Their small ship barely escaped the expanding shockwave. As they limped toward the edge of the star system, they could see the Coalition fleet, floating dead in space. 50 warships, dark and powerless, drifting like metal tombstones. Did we really do that? Hyejin asked, staring at the destruction. Tae-ho did that, So-young replied. We just helped him build the weapon. They transmitted their report to the hidden human observation post, then began the long journey back to Earth. They carried with them complete intelligence on Coalition fleet movements, defensive positions, and internal political situations. Information that would be invaluable in the battles to come. Supreme Commander Oh Sung-min survived the explosion on Zerion Prime, but his career did not. The Coalition High Command blamed him for the disaster. 50 ships lost to one human operative, an entire communication network destroyed. Frontier colonies in rebellion. In his final report, Sung-min wrote, "We underestimated the human capacity for sacrifice and ingenuity. Commander Lee Tae-ho was not just a spy or soldier. He was a force of nature. He turned our greatest strength against us and made our advantages into weaknesses. We sent 50 ships to capture one human. We wasted them all. But the Coalition's losses were humanity's gains. Admiral Shin Yunbi launched the largest human offensive of the war. With Coalition forces scattered and unable to coordinate, human fleets struck at targets across 3 star systems. Space battles that should have been impossible victories became routine successes. Coalition planets that had seemed unconquerable fell within days. The momentum of the war shifted completely. Within 6 months, humanity had recaptured all the star systems lost in the first 2 years of fighting. Within a year, they were advancing into Coalition territory. The defensive war had become an offensive campaign. Engineer Nam Hyejin became the head of Earth's new weapons development program. Using the quantum weapon technology stolen from Zerion Prime, she created defenses that could protect human colonies from any Coalition attack. Dr. Yoon So-young established the Xenobiology Research Institute, studying how alien environments could be turned into strategic advantages. Her work on crystal-based technology led to new forms of communication and energy storage, but they never forgot Commander Lee Tae-ho. In the memorial hall on Earth, his name was carved in black stone alongside the greatest heroes of human history. The inscription read, "He stood alone against 50 ships and taught the galaxy that humanity does not surrender." Lieutenant Colonel Seo Jun-ho was promoted to admiral and given command of the new frontier fleet. His mission was to push deeper into Coalition space and establish human colonies on former enemy worlds. Years later, when young officers asked him about the turning point of the war, Jun-ho would tell them about Zerion Prime, about one human who refused to accept defeat, about the day 50 Coalition warships became 50 pieces of space junk. The Coalition thought they were hunting a criminal, Jun-ho would say. They did not realize they were fighting the entire human species. Tae-ho carried all of our hopes and dreams and stubborn refusal to quit. When he died, he took our enemies' advantages with him. The Coalition never recovered from the disaster at Zerion Prime. Their empire fragmented into dozens of smaller nations. Some remained hostile to humanity, but none had the strength to threaten Earth again. The war officially ended 3 years after Tae-ho's sacrifice, with the Treaty of New Geneva. Humanity gained recognition as an independent species with the right to expand into their own territory. The Coalition agreed to pay reparations for the unprovoked invasion of human space. But the real victory was not political or military. It was psychological. The galaxy learned that humans could not be conquered or intimidated, that they would fight impossible odds with impossible determination, that underestimating humanity was the fastest way to lose everything. In Coalition, military academies, the Battle of Zerion Prime became required study. Officers learned to respect human tactical thinking and never assume easy victories. The lesson was simple. Humans are dangerous when cornered, lethal when organized, and unstoppable when they have nothing left to lose. Commander Lee Tae-ho had been dead for years, but his legacy lived on. Every human colony, every exploration ship, every diplomatic mission carried his spirit with them. They were proof that one person could change history if they were willing to pay the price. The Coalition had sent 50 ships to capture one human. They wasted them all and lost a war in the process. It was the most expensive mistake in galactic history and the most important lesson the universe ever learned about humanity.